Hello everybody, and welcome back once again to another episode of RT Talk. As always, I am Michael Cool. I don't know what that sound just was, but
the dog's just breathing.
Joining me today is obviously not Doug, but Renee is filling in and is here for what is going to be and what people will already see by the runtime and everything, but a very short episode. There has not been very much that has not come across my radar in the last 2 weeks in between episodes, and her and I have been watching terrible reality TV for a while, so we've been kind of unplugged from a lot of Rooster Teeth stuff, but
yeah, we haven't really been on YouTube much.
Or at all.
Yeah.
And there are two dogs roaming around, so you may hear them breathe or hit their tails off stuff, but I think the biggest thing we're going to talk about is the toxicity of the community, because that's a thing that comes up all the time. People talk about it in terms of how toxic it has become, or basically the toxicity being revealed, I guess is what I'll say, throughout time. But we're going to talk about that mostly, and then there's just a couple stories that we have, which is a little like an update kind of about the spring event series AHWU ending, and an update about Gus's dog. But so this is basically just gonna be a more general discussion as opposed to a like news list type thing that we usually do, where it's, here's this story about Warner Media, what have you. It's much more of a general discussion just about how toxic the community is, or I guess the idea that it's really toxic. So I can say it's hard for me to really tell in terms of comparing it from, because I've been watching since 2010, 2011, somewhere in there. And it's hard for me to compare that time to now, because I don't feel like I was really tuned into community stuff, really, until we started doing this podcast. And then once we started doing the podcast, I'm looking for stories all the time. I was, I'm on the subreddit, like I'm more involved in like the conversations that are going on. So it's hard for me to really truly compare like the, quote unquote old days to now. It does certainly feel different now, but I feel like the internet in general feels different now, and so does the company. So I'm sure that's a part of it.
Yeah, I didn't partake in any of like the community things. Like, I'm like on Twitter and Instagram, and I can see people's comments on there, and that's enough. Where I'm like, I don't want to see what happens on the actual site.
You would think in general the site would be a little more tame, because there with first memberships, is people actually paying for it. I do know one thing, and this is something I know we have touched on before, but one of the things that does make me I do get a little irritated sometimes, because it's like anything, people overuse phrases and then words start losing their meaning. So like, there was a time where for a while everything was either the best thing ever or the worst thing ever for people.
Yeah.
And of course, if you're around someone who used best thing ever to describe every single thing that they enjoyed, then you have no real gauge on what they actually like and what any sort of ranking system. But in that same way, there are certainly toxic elements to the community. There's no doubt, but there's a type of there's a type of people that get grouped into the toxic part, which is like, and I've seen it from first memberships, and then why this is like what reminded me of it, but where people would just say, like, anyone who has a criticism of something they've done, or says something about how they didn't like maybe a show or a decision they made, or if they just say something that is, I guess, negative but isn't necessarily even harsh, they'll say something along the lines of, it's since this happened, I haven't really been watching as much anymore, and someone will leave a reply saying like, well, you don't have to announce when you're leaving, or whatever it is. Like there's kind of comments like that. So I don't think those people should be included in that. And it kind of makes me, it's irritating when you see people who, like, no one can say an opinion that isn't super positive and supportive without it being kind of dumped on, which honestly, weirdly, kind of like the snake eating its own tail, it's kind of like is a part of maybe the toxic community that people are talking about. is that you can't have an opinion that goes against the company or stuff that they're doing.
I feel like if somebody goes, like, I don't, like somebody doesn't like Fiona, they don't have to comment on every single video Fiona's in and then go, this is why Rooster Teeth is going downhill, or this is why Achievement Hunter sucks.
So that's very different than what I'm talking about. Because because that's what, to me, I feel like when you, like, toxic is a word, it's like basically like, it's a war, but both sides have guns. So it's like, they both use that ammunition to shoot at each other. But I do think, in a way that is, in terms of, in quotes, toxic, I do think that in this instance, they both are. The people who are constantly just shitting on them, constantly dumping on them, and are going to, like, go through and comment on every, video and stuff, that is toxic. But also, these sort of, like, the uber protectors, the people who feel like they're wearing, like, they're clad out in armor at the gates of Rooster Teeth, protecting them from every single thing that happens. Yeah. It's like they overstep too, and then they overcorrect. And I feel like that gets into toxic behavior too, because if you're just going to lash out and attack everybody that you feel like isn't a part of, like, your team, you're a part of the problem now, because now you're hurting people who are enjoying it, and you're making it less enjoyable.
Yeah, like, no company is perfect. Like, they're gonna have their bad flaws, and like not every employee is liked, and you have to realize that. Like, some personalities or some people don't get other humor, because there's, like, the dry humor, and then there's, like, I don't know, because I don't, like...
You don't know the terms?
Yeah, I don't know the terms. But, like, some people don't like dry humor. Because, like, growing up, I didn't like... Oh, I don't remember his name. He was a comedian. He drank. His name's Ron.
Ron White?
Yeah. I didn't like his humor.
Still drinks. Still does comedy.
Yes, I know.
Owns, like,
but
jets and shit.
I don't like his humor. And I like Dane Cook's humor. I like Chris D'Elia's humor. Like, I like their humor. But other people don't.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, like, not everybody is going to like or dislike whatever you do. And you just need to get over it.
That's what, like, that is the I would say, because I think ultimately where I land on this, and in line with what you're saying, is, like, I think most of the audience is not toxic. Yeah. Most of the audience doesn't participate in anything.
Yeah, most, like, because, like, there's, like, people from the community that I've, like, commented on Jackie's posts or Alfredo's, or I've tweeted something at them, and, like, I've interacted with certain people from the community. And then there's nice people, and then there's people who, like, have commented and was like, you have really pick-me energy. And I'm like, well, that's getting deleted now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just because you don't have to, like, attack something just because you don't like it, and you don't have to attack someone because they don't like it. Like, one of, like, my best friends and I aren't similar, but we're not that different. Like, we have different things. Like, I have a friend who's very, like, health conscious and does all of that. And I'm like, I will eat a whole container of Oreos and not feel guilty.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, your differences can make you closer. You just have to hear each other out.
But I think most people do fall in that category. So I think ultimately, the outspoken people, or, like, whoever does fall in the toxic category, whatever that means to whoever's listening, mm-hmm. whoever you categorize as toxic, I think they're definitely the minority, because you absolutely, like, if you look at any video, and of course, there's, like, even just take, like, a video for, like, Achievement Hunter that doesn't do, or it does, like, I don't know, I guess, like 150,000 views. There's, like, 2,000 comments that'll be on that video, mm-hmm. and not all those are negative. So you're already talking about a fraction of the people who watched it commented, and a fraction of that fraction are now part of the negative group, mm-hmm. or, whatever category they're in. So I do feel like the sort of, like, live and let live, and, I think aspect of it, I think most people don't get involved in, and I also think there's a part of it too, just, and I'm not going to go into it that much because I've talked about it way too much, I think, on this throughout doing this podcast. But just in terms of how like Rooster Teeth has changed over the years, especially the last like 2 or 3 years, I do think there's a lot of people because when we talked about it the one time, and I know there was someone who left a comment, a good comment, but we were talking about like certain, I think basically the same subject, but people leaving comments and wind chimes. People leaving comments and then being negative, or like, because I understand if there's something that you're watching that you're a big fan of, and something has happened or someone has joined that you really don't like, and now it's like, now you have no, okay, just silencing the wind chime. Now you have no place to really discuss that or get that out. I mean, like, you know, way back when we talked about Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
I've loved Game of Thrones. I watched Game of Thrones. I didn't start watching like as soon as it started, but I watched it, you know, I think like right before the 3rd season started or something. So I watched it all the way through, and then the last season I was really let down by. So it is something that I'm really invested in. I really care about it. I really loved it. But there was a part of it that I really didn't like. And so like, yeah, there's something that like, I kind of want to talk about that, and I want to like, you want to go back and forth, not to like attack people, but you just want to talk about that feeling. So I get people coming from that perspective. And my point when I was saying that is like or in the video from a little while ago, my point when I was talking about it is that like, I don't see those people as being like part of the problem. Because at the comment, it was someone saying like, I just feel like, you know, if you don't like something, then don't watch it. It was like, well, that was like the general message. They put it more politely than I just did. But that was the general message. And it's like, I agree with that, but I also understand too, anyone coming from that perspective where you care about this thing a lot, and if you've watched it for a number of years and now there's something that they've done or something that they are doing or something that's changed that you're like, oh, I love this thing so much, and now I feel like we're teetering, like it's something is going wrong, and then just voicing that. Now, if you're the type of person who voices that through this company is bullshit now, that's not the same category what I'm referring to.
Yeah, no, you like, if you have like your opinion but you can't give reasons to back it up, then it's like, why even say it then?
Because we have a lot of comments, particularly on the Fiona video. That's our biggest video so far. But we've had a lot of comments of people that I like, and I'm seeing the different groups everyone belongs to, and I've seen the people who are negative for being like, for the sake of being negative, and positive, like, who are like super, like, there was someone that went through was like replying to every single thread where people were going through, just telling them to leave. And like, that was like what they were doing. It's like, I was like, you know, we're not actually associated with Rooster Teeth. I don't know who, like, what, I don't know who you're kicking them off of.
Yeah.
But there was people in there who were voicing a opinion similar to that, where like, they would say they went on the site, or they were talking, like they would post something somewhere, and the reaction would be for them just to get out. Like, so if you don't like it, just leave. And it's like, and it's me being me, I understand that from both perspectives. If you're really, like, if you are still enjoying something, you don't really want to hear people complaining about it all the time. You're like, just go somewhere else. Like, don't be here. So it's like, I just feel like there's a lot, I think really what it boils down to is there's a lot of different schools of thought and a lot of different feelings on the company, especially since it's changed, and like people that were introduced and how quickly it changed, like how many people they, like we talked about last week, the week before, like how many people they lost so quickly. So it's like the speed at which everything changed. I think there's just a lot of different groups now, and that some of them like are different but see eye to eye. Some of them are really different, and now you have all of them just competing for each other. And it's, to me, it's, yeah, I don't have any. Even for our own channel, I really don't have any tolerance for people who are just outright negative and just post things that, like, even some of the ones that don't, like, there was someone, it was just, like, I told you, I was like, they were clearly trolling, but they weren't even good at trolling, because they said it, like, well, Fiona just slept with everyone at the company to get where she wanted, and I was like, what are you talking about? It was just the dumbest comment, and I was like, okay, just delete that one. But I mean, even we've gotten it too, because there's, I think I always say that Phil was like our first fan and everything, and I don't have any kind of, you know, analytics on number one fandom or any way to even, I don't even know how you calculate that, but I think this person beats him, because this person apparently watches all of our videos just to hate them. Mm-hmm. And then they just leave, and then they like live comment them watching as if everyone's watching it with them. It's very bizarre.
Yeah.
So it's like even we've gotten some. It's like they clearly really don't like Rooster Teeth, and now that's getting directed at us because we like Rooster Teeth, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, there's absolutely parts of the community that are really bad. I also don't think it's anything new.
No.
At all.
No, because, like, I mean, I've seen, like, most of, like, the hate, like, especially because I've liked Meg for so long. So, like, any of the things she was in, there was always comments saying, like, oh, like, Meg slept her way to being on screen.
Yeah. Which, that seems like that's a common narrative. Not necessarily like that exact, like, quote, but that seems like that's a common thing for anyone who is, female that comes through, tends to get,
I've gotten that whenever, like, I did better than somebody on a test. Like, you slept with the teacher. It's just an attack on a female. That's just what it is. And it's not a good one.
Well, and they probably do it because it works sometimes, and people get agitated, and then they know they got to you. But, yeah, it's undeniable that there is definitely aspects of the community and stuff that are super negative and seem to stick around just to hate it. Mm-hmm. And then there's people who are probably fans of one thing or another years ago, and then that thing went away or changed, and they've just kind of keep tabs on it just to shit on it. And again, there's people who overcorrect on the other side who are going to push it too far, and, like, even for someone like me who is a fan of them, I see what they're doing and I go, yeah, that's not the answer either. Like, you're not helping actually by just starting fights with everybody. But
well, the best thing to do is if you see somebody's comment, just don't comment. Just leave it alone. Don't feed them.
I mean, that's honestly, like I said, there is some that I'm basically just all I can do is really compare it to what we've done. Mm-hmm. And it's like I'm still trying to figure out the exact, like, appropriate way to, like, handle comments. Mm-hmm. Because there's some people who just have really negative opinions, and sometimes they'll put them in kind of shittier ways, and I'm kind of just like, to me it's almost like a sink or swim type thing. Like, all right, you put that out there, so now you're going to get whatever comes with that. Mm-hmm. If that is people supporting it, or if it's people who are going to, like, dump on you now, like, you put it out there. Mm-hmm. Like, I understand, like, maybe this philosophy doesn't directly translate, or not translate, but maybe it won't make sense to everybody. But to me, the comment section isn't necessarily ours. Like, I understand it's the comment section on our video, it's responding to our content, but I just don't, obviously we have some control over it too, but it's also something that I don't see, like, being something that belongs to us. Mm-hmm. Because, I feel like almost like, if I like to water down, I guess my analogy is like, if like YouTube is essentially like the park, and Doug and I, or you and I, or the three of us are kind of on a stage saying our opinion, and some people are stopping to watch, some people are stopping for a second, they leave, some people are paying no attention, they just walk by, and then the discussion they're having is the discussion they're having about what we said. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, if there's someone that's throwing rocks at us, then we'll have them kicked out. Yeah. But I just don't feel like that's I feel like the comment section is the group of people that have come across our stuff and are just saying their opinion. So, like, I just don't know how much I really want to get into every time someone says something negative about the company or one of our opinions or whatever. It's like, I don't want to necessarily go in and moderate that so heavily. Yeah. And so it's like,
if you post, like, an actual comment that has reasoning or validation, not just, like, Fiona sucks, Achievement Hunter sucks, Gavin sucks. Like, you're just, like, the heckler and the, like, crowd where someone makes fun of you on stage.
Well, I've never deleted a comment that was just, especially, like, because there's people who have put, like, left comments too that are like, they disagree, or like they have the complete opposite opinion that I do, but they've presented either like some people were like really just like respectful, but some people were like, you know, it's like some of the wording and stuff is they're getting like it's getting a little, I guess, harsh or whatever.
You can state your opinion without insulting the other party.
Yeah, but there's some people who like they will use a little more colorful language and like they'll be going through and then they're just like, and that's why they fucking suck now. And it's like, all right, like you're starting to look more like the people who are just complete assholes. But I just let it roll. But anyone who's ever put anything, like if it's just a matter of opinion, then I don't even consider deleting those. It's just the people who are the ones that are just outright anger or just completely absurd and stuff. I'm like, okay, like that's not even helpful. But my point being, through that whole, I got really off track talking about our comment section, but like just saying about how there is different groups and stuff. Like I even see it in our comment section for people who are in that camp of being, I feel a certain way about this. I don't really, if I post it somewhere, everyone comes at me. Then there's people who come in who will go after everyone. The people who are super dicky, who like I just said, I delete and stuff like that. It's just like I can see the different shades of the community that exists now, and I don't think it's a new thing because if you've listened to the RT podcast or, you know, eventually, or if you go back far enough when it was the Drunk Tank, they like all the time Bernie would bring up, or Gus or whoever would bring up someone that was on the site talking shit about them or like would say something. I mean, fucking Jordan Swears is his first appearance in anything Rooster Teeth related was him shit talking Bernie because they were talking about when Conan was getting kicked off the Tonight Show and he left this big long comment shitting on Bernie and Bernie read it on the podcast and like I forget like a couple months, a year later, 2 years, whatever it was, they're like, oh yeah, this guy's making animated adventures, this J. or Dan person, and then it was the same person who made a shitty comment. So it's like it's not anything new. It's always been there, and that's why. And like I said, me being not as connected, it's hard to know how much that's increased over time. I mean, I almost feel like the internet's a worse place now than it's ever been.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I mean, no one's really safe. It seems like no matter who you are, there's people coming at you, and obviously there's certain people have it worse than others, no doubt. But it does seem like a more negative place than it's been like in previous years that I can remember anyway.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe just so much social media and obviously being anonymous gives you so much more like courage because nothing's ever going to come back to you, so you can just say whatever you're actually thinking as opposed to facing any level of consequence. Because so I said, like, and I've mentioned this before, but like there's a lot of people, and it's obviously not a general, or I guess this is a general statement, but it's not a blanket statement meaning this applies to every single person that's like this, but there's a lot of the people out there who say really awful things that would never even dream of saying it in real life. Like to say to someone's face, there's actual consequences. Like, and I don't mean just like that they'll punch you in the face or something, but I mean that is an option. But it's a whole different game whenever you're actually saying it to someone's face as opposed to just an avatar on your screen.
90% of the time, if somebody says something to you online and then you see them in public and you question them, they're going to go, I didn't say that.
Or they'll like, yeah, well, no, that wasn't me.
Just kidding.
My little brother got on my account.
Yeah.
It's always goes. There's always some really terrible excuse, but I mean, I don't know. It's just people get brave behind a keyboard all the time, and that's not new.
No,
that's been around forever.
Yeah. No, I do have a question for the people who keep commenting that they hate Rooster Teeth and keep watching our videos. Why? If you hate Rooster Teeth, why are you checking up on the company then?
I think people don't realize it, but they like to make themselves angry. And I think they...
Go to therapy.
They should.
Work out your mommy and daddy problems there.
I'd say, or go back and find out what you're really why you really feel that way, and then really work your way through that, because this is probably a symptom more than it is the cause, but...
Because, because I'm on TikTok, and most of my For You page is, Avengers, or, just Marvel, and, the comment sections in there are always just, I stopped watching it after, the Thor 2 or whatever movie it is. And I'm like, okay, well, why are you watching something that's talking about, like, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier? Why?
That's what I mean. I think people find stuff that agitates them. Well, I think it's honestly, this is not, I mean, has nothing to do with Rooster Teeth necessarily, but that is like the big thing just with news in general right now is, I don't even know why I say it right now because it's been going on forever, but they focus on the story that gets the biggest reaction. So either shock or like, you know, how could someone possibly think of this? How could someone say that? It's like to agitate you, to anger you. And I think people just, it's when they have really like intense feelings about something and they come across it, it's just like it just brings out a certain side of them. But like I said too, it's also one of those things that most of the people that watch anything are not like, are just moving on. Like, I don't know how many YouTube videos we've watched and how many comments I've left because I don't know that I ever have.
Yeah. I stopped commenting on things because either I have said something and somebody doesn't like it, or I've said something and I didn't have the full extent of the knowledge. So instead of educating nicely, they just attack you personally.
Oh, yeah.
They try and go to your personal page to then go, oh, that's funny coming from, like, someone who lives in a, like, mobile home or something. So it's like, well, you could have just been nice.
Well, there's also that, I forget what the story, but there was a story you told me a little bit, it's not, again, not related to Rooster Teeth, but there was something you told me. You were like, oh, this person went and they found something that this person had, like, said or done a bunch of years ago, and it was really like it wasn't even that big of a deal. And I was like, I'm actually more grossed out by the person who went digging through this person's past to find, like, just find some way that this person's a scumbag. Like, what they did was like pretty forgivable. I was like, yeah, I mean, it's not a good thing by any means, but it's like I don't even remember that. It was like a week ago or 2 weeks ago whenever we were talking about it, but it's like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that. But I do think I feel like we're definitely just dealing with the worst. Like, the people who are the most obviously upset or excited about something are the ones that are going to leave the comment. So obviously they're going to have the biggest negative reaction or positive reaction to something. Because that's what, and honestly, I found that out either like on the subreddit or like if it was like on Twitter or whatever. But if there was something that was happening and like there was only been a couple times I've commented on stuff on Reddit, but like if you take an approach that is like, you know, understanding and being like kind of empathetic towards like when something happened or someone, I almost always was downvoted. Almost every time.
It's that or it's just completely ignored because somebody had commented on multiple of your videos about a certain thing and I had asked them for the proof, because if they have the receipts to give me for the proof, then I'll take you into consideration. But if you're not, like, if you're going to comment on multiple videos, the same comment, and then not respond, then you're just an idiot.
And that's, like, what we were talking about before, like how you were saying, with people like that, it's, like, just good just to not respond to them. Because there is people and who have, like, this idea that, like, you have to go after, like, everyone who leaves negative comments. Mm-hmm. I don't fall. I think I'm kind of a hybrid. I think the most, like, egregious ones you do. But I think in general, like I said, I do believe that there should be like a sink or swim mentality when dealing with people who do like just leave those type of comments all the time. Because to me, it's just like, and I think for me too, it's like all this stuff isn't anything new to me. Like, I'm not saying like I'm used to dealing with a bunch of people hating me, but growing up and using the internet, I was in chat rooms when I was a lot younger. MSN chat rooms, shout out, rest in peace. Shout out and rest in peace. I was in MSN chat rooms. Is what I would come home and I had like a group of people I knew on them, and there was you were just interacting with strangers all the time. So there was the chat rooms, and I used to be on message boards, which were rampant with like stuff like this. And this was both at a time where I don't even know that moderators were a thing. No. They were just pretty much like this is where people go to chat, and unless something illegal happens, there's no one there to change it.
You could report negative or like bad or harassment things, but then it would take like a week to do anything.
And honestly, I'm sure that was available. I don't even remember it.
Oh,
I don't even remember there being a report or anything. I'm sure there was, but it was a constant thing where like you'd be talking to people and then someone would come in and they would just be saying shitty things or like trying to start stuff with people, and it's just like, all right, see you later. And I really, again, just based off like real life, if there was someone like that was like that, and like if I worked with someone who was just a complete dick, then my goal, like my objective would be to just not be around them. And if they would then like come at me with something, then then I'm going to fire back at them or say something to try to embarrass them or whatever. But it's like, for the most part, it is just usually just to ignore them. Unless, like I said, this is excluding that in a really extreme category where it is just nonsense and everything else. But
my favorite thing to do, because they hate it, because they get more and more irritated, is just correcting their grammar.
It's a good one.
I love doing that. They get so mad.
It's either that or if you don't take what they say seriously and respond with like some level of a joke that seems to get on their skin too. So I said, like this kind of stuff does not feel foreign. Like even when we were getting like our first wave of comments and everything, it was like, this feels like home. It feels familiar the way it used to. So it's like, I don't know, but so I guess just to wrap up this kind of thought or this subject or whatever, how do you think, I guess, how toxic do you think the community is?
From what I see on Twitter, I would say it's mildly toxic. I mean, it's not the worst I've seen.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, I wasn't even thinking about, like, how to rank it or a rating system or anything like that, but I'm just trying to think of, like...
I mean, on a scale of, like, 1 to 10, I would say, like, the people on Twitter are, like, a 7. Because they can get really bad. Especially because, like, they attack others for, like, literally... Like, some people are getting attacked because their boyfriend doesn't respond to them, so they just attack them instead.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what it's like. It's a hard thing to gauge, but... because I don't... And that's, since I'm not a part of other... Like, there's no other, like, group or anything that I watch to compare, like, this community to their community or anything. No. Because, like, even stuff like when we watch A Good Mythical Morning, I never look at the comments.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever actually looked at the comments for YouTube. Just because, like, very rarely are we on our computers when we watch YouTube. It's always on the TV.
Yeah.
And then it's, like, 3,000 steps to get to the comments.
And I would assume Good Mythical Morning has... I would assume it's a more positive community. But, again, who actually knows?
But I just stay out of almost everything just because it's something I enjoy, and I'm not going to let X, Y, and Z commenting, like, change that. I'm just going to enjoy the comment because my view means more than their, like, hate comment does.
Well, and here's, I think, thinking about it more, there's a lot of vocal people, but I think ultimately I do fall on the side of it being maybe mild to... It's not non-existent, but I know because, and as I've mentioned before, like, one of the things, like, I listen to the most is, like, podcasts from, like, stand-up comedians who say the stuff that gets people the most agitated because they're going for jokes and people don't always take it as whatever it is, whatever that whole conversation is, but... I listen to a lot of their podcasts, and I don't know of any of them who ever read their comments. And I think it's a good way to live, honestly. If you make the content, I don't know that it's the best thing to be reading all your comments. And I think if you're consuming content of some type, because, like, if you think about, like, you can't, when you watch a Netflix show, it's not like you have a comment section underneath. I mean, you can look it up to see what people are saying on Twitter, but...
Yeah, because I know on Hulu you can like or dislike something. I can't remember if Netflix changed their... Like, you can rate it. Yeah,
well, they have their... Yeah, it's like a thumbs up or thumbs down that you can do yourself.
Yeah.
And then they try to... Their algorithm tries to match it with
But, like,
Someone
there's
else.
no, like, I'm sure if, like, they go to, like YouTube and somebody, like, illegally puts it on there. But, like, I just don't see a point. Like, I mean, like, AHWU, like, they had the comment section for questions and all of that. But, like, most of, like, the podcasts that I listen to, they read their, like, 5-star reviews, or I think one of them,
or like Patreon,
yeah,
stuff like that. People who are like,
yeah.
are there
like,
for you.
Because I'm in 3 of, like, my murder podcasts on Facebook. Like, not their Patreon, but, like, I'm on their groups, and, like, nobody's really negative on those ones. There's, like, the negative comments on their, like, reviews, but it's not, like, attacking them. I mean, it is attacking them because it's, like, their sound quality, because, like, the first episode of the murder podcast for us is not that great. So...
Well, what I was saying was, though, that, like, if you're watching content, if you enjoy content, like, Netflix doesn't have a comment section or anything, but there's, I can guarantee, for most people at least, there's never been a Netflix show that you watched and you enjoyed that you were like, oh, I would have liked this more if there was a comment section.
Yeah.
So my point being is that the comment section is there as, like, a bonus thing, and it's there for people to interact. And I really enjoy, like, when people do, like, for us personally, when they do leave comments, like, even when they are, like, when they just disagree with us or hate, like, even those type ones are fine. There's only that small category of people who are just complete assholes that are, it's like, that's the only place I draw the line. But just people who have said positive things, or just, or who jump in on the conversation, I enjoy all that stuff.
Yeah.
This is not a knock on comments in general, but I just don't think having the comment section, what people say about a show, should never affect how you like it.
Yeah, no.
Is really, I think, the point. So it's like, comparatively, I think that aspect, along with, like I said, people who make content saying not to read the comments, then on this side actually just not even really paying attention to them, I think is the healthiest way to live, is just to kind of watch stuff. If you like it, you watch it.
I think some videos, like, especially, like, if they're not using comments, I think Rooster Teeth probably should shut comment sections down.
It did for a while.
Yeah. But, like, there's, like, especially, like, whenever there's, like, something bad happens, and that's when all, like, the flood of hate comes in, like, when they hire a new employee. That's, like...
Yeah, I mean, at that point, I think that would just be moving towards getting rid of their comment section entirely. Yeah. And there is a lot of good... Because you want to, like... For as much as I've said about the comments, like, you do want to have a space where people who are fans can interact with each other.
I feel like that's what the site should be used for, is because you have to pay to post. So if you're gonna hate
you
them,
can post without being a first member. You just have to. I think you just have to have a member. Or no, well, I think you do, because
for, like, to get into the chats and stuff, I think you have to be a first member.
I don't know. I haven't used the site for
That's how
a while.
it was when I was watching something, I believe. I can't remember what. But
yeah, I think if they got rid of their comments, like, I'm not completely, like, for getting rid of comments entirely. I just do think you have to find the balance yourself, in that if you like something, it'll be ruined by you reading comments, pretty much. Like, if you're just enjoying something and you don't really have, if you don't have that urge to jump into the comment section and then start talking to people, then I think the best thing you can do is just to continue, just watch it, enjoy it for what it was, and then move on to the next thing. I think is probably the healthiest thing you can do. But yeah, I think in general, though, I think you're always going to hear, like, the most extreme opinions on either side. That's the one you're primarily going to hear. But I don't know. I think as a whole, I would not feel comfortable calling the Rooster Teeth community toxic, especially with things like Extra Life, when, like, they raise tons and tons and tons of money. Yeah. I don't think as a whole it is. I do think there is, like, a group that would fall into that category, but overall, I wouldn't put that as saying that Rooster Teeth has a toxic community. And yeah, like I said, I don't have anything to necessarily compare it to, but I just don't feel like that's the case. I just think the internet's the internet, and it's going to get negative, and there's going to be bad people on there. But Real quick, we can just go through our other couple subjects. So I guess, well, I'll just mention real quick because it is just it is what it is. But the spring event series that we talked about a couple weeks ago, and that was effectively replacing AH Live. It already went down and everything, but there was a comment that someone posted on the subreddit about they tweeted like at Achievement Hunter or Rooster Teeth or something asking if it was going to be a VOD, and they said that it would be. So if you missed out on the spring event series, then you will be able to watch it. I assume on the site, probably either through First membership or maybe they'll just keep it up as like something you can purchase but actually see it. I don't know. I'm not sure the details of it. That's all I saw was that it will be put up as a on-demand type thing. So that will be available if you missed it and wanted to see it. And it was nice seeing everyone back together.
Yeah.
And actually, so when we watched the AHWU, that's what I said. I was like, you can tell they haven't seen each other in a long time because everyone was talking.
Yeah.
Like all 8 of them or however many people were there were all talking, just all together. I was like, I don't even know who's saying what. But speaking of AHWU is coming to an end after 11 years, I think.
Yeah, I think it was Jack tweeted that him and Jeff were just getting choked up through the whole thing.
Yeah, for the last one. Mm-hmm. I'm not exactly sure why it's ending. I didn't see anything, even going through the subreddit. I didn't see people even speculating as to why.
Yeah, I didn't really dive into it because I haven't really been on Rooster Teeth things.
I mean, there was definitely posts about it. I didn't go through the comments on the post about it to see if people said anything, but I assume, I don't know, maybe it's like a views thing or, because I think we were talking about it, I'm pretty sure they ended AHWU before, not like in this capacity where there was this big announcement, but I think there was a time where they stopped doing it, or maybe I'm just confusing it when they switched up how AHWU worked, because AHWU used to be, they would just talk about like, oh, releasing this week, this game. It was meant to be like a video game news show, basically, for a long time, and then they switched it to being like reading comments, opening fan mail, and then they were talking about their releases.
Yeah.
So like it did make a shift, and maybe I'm confusing that, but
I'm not 100% sure.
Well, depending on when you're watching this, there's either one left or none left, because right now this I forget what day, I think it comes out on Monday.
It comes out Mondays, yeah.
So yeah, it's this Monday's is the last one. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw it come back eventually in some capacity, and somehow. But yeah, it is ending now. But and then the last thing is that it's a sad note, and it when I saw it was definitely, it's weird because it doesn't affect my day-to-day life at all, but it still was it was a little punch to the heart. But Gus's dog Benjamin passed away in the last couple weeks. I think it was last week. But if you've been listening to the RT podcast for a long time, then you'll know there's been tons of stories of Benjamin told on there, as well as
I think there's some
animated adventures. Yeah, there definitely is a couple of those. And it's mentioned a lot. I know Gus has posted about him a bunch, but yeah, it was, as someone who has 2 dogs who are sitting in the room with us right now, I think anytime there's anything pet related that happens, it hits a little differently. Like even when we talked about Jeremy and losing his cat, which there has been no update for. It's Scooter, right?
Yeah, Scooter.
Their names I mix up all the time. I forget which ones were. I know Booker, Scooter,
and
Zipper. That's it.
Leave it to me to know all the pets.
I know. Future vet tech over here. Vet tech Renee, but so even like that one hits a little differently whenever you have animals, but yeah, it was I know Doug called me out on this, but I'm gonna bring back this word for this instance. Reading that was a real bummer. So, and I know I've definitely said it more than just this time, but yeah, that is it. That is all the episode. We actually went longer than I anticipated we would, but we actually got deeper into the what it means to be a toxic community and everything else, at least from our perspective. But yeah, this is our 100th episode, and we didn't really do anything for it other than make sure Doug wasn't here.
I can make cookies tonight. You want peanut butter cookies?
Okay. I don't know that anyone out there is going to get one, but
You can tweet it or something. Like, you can...
Well, people can comment.
Yeah.
If they want one of your peanut butter. See, and this will like figure out. Well, we'll see who the people are who watch all the way to the end.
Yeah.
Because then, if you didn't watch all the way to the end, then you don't know anything about the peanut butter cookies. And then, if you leave a comment about the peanut butter cookies, then everyone else will just be confused and be like, "What the fuck? Why are they talking about peanut butter cookies on the video when they're talking about toxic communities?"
Yeah.
But, yeah. So that's it. We'll be back on Wednesday as always for Out in the Grapes. I've been very happy with Out in the Grapes the last like 4 or 5 weeks or so. Doug and I were almost killed last week when we were laughing at a TikTok, and I feel like we were hitting a nice groove with Out in the Grapes. So you can find that podcast and this one if you're watching this anywhere on Spotify or iTunes, all the places that podcasts exist, and same with Out in the Grapes. So that's it, and thank you for watching. And we'll be back in 2 weeks for another RT Talk. Do you want to have the final words?
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Perfect.